Hey, what's going on, Who That Nation? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the State of the Saints podcast. This is the part two of the part one episode that we just recently did. We took a little break because I had an interview on the Big Dash Nose podcast, a podcast who covers the New York Football Giants. Want to give him a salute and a shout out for having me over on his channel. Make sure that y'all subscribe to the Big Dash Nose podcast. Support that brother. He does a really good job over there. And also a special shout out to all of the members of the Who Dat Nation that came over as well, who traveled with me over there. Really came, showed up and showed out. I mean, even he was impressed by the presence of the members of the Who Dat Nation being over there on the channel. So I really do appreciate you all. Did want to go ahead and go live again. If you're just joining us, we were talking a little bit about the Saints injury report. We spoke a little bit about Chase Young dealing with a calf injury. Some people were talking about, why is it that Chase Young has missed so much time, hasn't practiced in 5 weeks. I reached out to a well-known orthopedic surgeon out in the Miami area, Dr. Jesse Moyes, who has been on the show, a good friend of the show. Just kind of getting his thoughts on why Chase Young would be out so long with a calf injury. He said maybe it's a bad stage 2 or, strain where it may involve a guy being out 4 to 8 weeks. It's almost like at a point where the calf muscle could possibly rupture if you don't treat it correctly. So I know Saints fans are frustrated about it. Of course, you want to see Chase Young out there, especially since the New Orleans Saints paid him that 3-year deal. But you definitely want him to be available when he does come back without any hiccups and dealing with nagging injuries. So I'd rather him sit out and get it right than to come back out. He plays. He probably plays well. And then the next thing you know, he's on the sideline for the entire year because something even worse happens. So, I just hope that Chase Young can get it together. It's unfortunate that he's in this position. He's a talented guy. Everybody talks about how talented he is. Had so much promise coming out of Ohio State, being a second overall pick. And, he had a really solid rookie campaign with the Washington Commanders. So hopefully he can get back on the field sooner rather than later. Like I said, I understand the frustration of the Who Dat Nation. Trust and believe. You want your key players to be out there on the field, making an impact. It adds to your team's chances of winning football games. But you definitely want to see this guy upright and healthy. And, we don't want to see this guy getting hurt so he won't be able to take care of his family or not be in a league and do something that he loves anymore. So, speedy recovery to Chase Young. Hopefully he'll be back. But, the reality is we wouldn't even be having this conversation if you have some more defensive players step up, make plays. And we've seen some of these young guys make plays. Brian Brzee had a sack last week. Carl Granderson had a sack. That brings him to 4.5 on the season. Cam Jordan, the ageless wonder, getting active. It takes these young guys like the Fidel Diggs, who it seems like Kellen Moore likes a lot. Brandon Staley likes a lot. Chris Rumph, I think that he played really well. He's been coming on as of late. It's up to these young guys to be able to step up in the absence of Chase Young. And yes, Chase Young is probably more athletic and possess more skills than some of these guys do. But you got to be able to take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves to you. And this is a great opportunity for some of these young players to find success defensively for the New Orleans Saints. Feel free to put your comments inside of the chat if you got something to say pertaining to the New Orleans Saints or just anything, in general involving the NFL. Special shout out to those that checked out the video, the most recent video on the State of the NFL podcast channel. We broke down the Shedeur Sanders situation, over there and some of the comments that people have had about him. And also the Cleveland Browns announcing that Dylan Gabriel will be the starting quarterback. But unfortunately, that doesn't move Shedeur Sanders up the depth chart. In fact, he's still going to be the number 3 quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and Joe Flacco will be the backup. So make sure you check that out. Let me know what you all think of the commentary. Of course, we're going to be going live Thursday night football over there, the live stream, the 49ers and the Rams game. Should be a good one. we have a good time over there, man. So if you haven't been over to the State of the NFL and watched some of the live stream episodes we've done, I mean, you're missing out. We have a really good time over there. We joke around. We talk about life. We talk about other football topics. And it's pretty much a free fall over there. So if you're into that type of stuff and you're probably just watching, and if you're probably just watching the game and you just want somebody to watch it with, and you're probably just chilling by yourself, like, man, come on, man. Just, turn the TV down, turn it up like they sit down in WWL and come over there and chill with us. All right, let me go ahead and read some of these comments. Gerard says, Chase might be done, but I said that last week. I don't know if he's done, man. I don't want to speculate here. I just think that the Saints are erring on the side of caution. Look, the fact that they haven't put him on IR yet, to me, it just tells me that he'll probably be back soon. They don't feel like it's warranted. But it would be warranted if you are dealing with a grade 2, a stage 2 type calf injury. Like, I want to go ahead and read this again. This is a report that I looked up, when it comes to a stage 2 or a grade 2, when it comes to the calf injury. All right, and this may explain a little bit of maybe what Chase Young is going through. All right, so they said that a grade 2 is a significant number of muscle fibers are torn, but the muscle is not completely ruptured. All right, so you got some fibers being torn, right? But the muscle is still intact and it's not ruptured yet. But if it's not treated and you still go out there and play on it or practice on it, it can get ruptured. And now you're talking about surgery and missing the entire season. It says recovery timeline usually between 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the severity and rehab. All right, so we don't know if it's going to be 4 weeks. I mean, we know it's been 4 weeks. We don't know if it's going to go to 8 weeks. It all depends on the rehabilitation process. I expect for him not to fall into that range. I mean, especially when we're talking about, the sports medicine guys. The Saints have brought in some really good sports medicine guys, a well-respected strength and conditioning guy to be a part of the staff. So I'm pretty sure they're doing everything that they can in order for them to get him back on the field. Like I said, 4 to 8 weeks before return to a full training and competitive play. All right. So some of the things that, that could prohibit him from hitting the field, and maybe it's some setbacks, like a small partial tear that heals faster than a larger one. So, maybe he's dealing with one on a more of a smaller scale, so it can heal quicker, more versus one that is larger that will probably have him out for that full 8 weeks. So it's a lot of things that can be going on. Like I say, I think that the fact that Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints organization were kind of minimizing the injury. I think that is why New Orleans Saints fans are frustrated. But it was the fact that it made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal. Dude seemed like to me he was just trying to get information about the team. I mean, but Ronnie, that's a conversation. If I invite somebody over that covers the Giants or covers the Patriots, I mean, we're basically getting information anyway, because I assume that's what you're talking about. I assume that's who you're referring to. But that's how you get information. Like I say it all the time. We don't cover other teams the way that we cover the New Orleans Saints. We don't know as much about other teams as we know about the New Orleans Saints. So, yeah, I mean, they probably need transparency, but that's okay. That's what this is all about. That is why platforms like mine and also Dash's, they're able to expound on what their teams do best, what their keys to victory can be, some of the things that maybe you as just a casual of an opposing team probably wouldn't even be privy to. So that's what it's all about, man. It's about discourse and coming away from the conversation better than you left it. I mean, it's not much, Ronnie, you don't know about the Saints, right? But there's a lot of things that you may not know about the Giants. So, I mean, it's all about discourse, man. I mean, we're just sitting up there like, man, what do you think the Saints need to do to beat the Giants? None of your business. What kind of show would that be? But look, man, it's all about getting information, discourse, and transparency. Man, their media is still going in on Shedeur, especially after that silent interview he did today. Well, that's one of them situations where damn if you do, damn if you don't, right? Now, if he sat up there and just said, I need to be the starting quarterback, I feel like I'm a starting quarterback, then all of a sudden they dissecting that like a 11th grader in his biology class, right? Like, and if he doesn't say anything at all, why is he saying anything? He's not mature. That's the reason why he's not playing his quarterback position. That's why he's not a starter. Like, it's damn if you do, it's damn if you don't. Like, this guy has been put under a microscope. A lot of it comes because, the confidence that he has, and people just don't like, for some reason, they don't like people to be overly confident. I don't know why. Like, if this guy was just walking around with his head down saying, I think I can be the starting quarterback of the Browns, then all of a sudden he lacks confidence. But the fact that he says, I know that I can be a starting quarterback, he's too arrogant. So it's, I don't know, man. It seems like it's just a systematic attack on this dude. Like, you may not like him, but to say that a guy can't play, and, you see that, okay, maybe he'll leave something to be desired, but most people are like, okay, man, look how he played for the Rams, but look how he played against Carolina too. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. Like, all I know is this is a guy who threw for 14,000 yards in college, 134 touchdowns, had a 70% completion percentage. So to say that a guy can't play with those type of stats, those type of numbers, I think he deserves at least to get a look at how he would be able to respond on the field versus professional athletes. Like, that's all I'm saying. But it just seemed like it's a systematic attack against this dude because he's confident. Like, you may not like him. And, I think that people are starting to fall into that category like, oh, he can't play. I just don't understand it. I don't get it. I would never get it. And I definitely don't understand how people are taking a word of an organization like the Cleveland Browns, who have had 40 starting quarterbacks since 1999. 40 quarterbacks that started for the Cleveland Browns since 1999. 41 now, if you count Dylan Gabriel. Like, come on, man. What are we doing here? So I don't mean to get on my soapbox about that, but, I just don't like the energy, man. I just don't like the energy with that. Yo, didn't know you were still on, TJ. Gregory, I actually left because I was on the Dash Nose podcast. He covers the New York Giants. We left. And we just kind of had like a little brief 15-minute conversation earlier. So I said I was going to circle back so I can be able to answer some questions and, see what the Who Dat Nation was talking about. But thank you for being here, Greg. Pretty good being in the chat live. Most times I listen the next day while working. Thank you, TJ. Who Dat? Ariel, thank you for being here, man, Ariel. I understand like some people can't always catch it live. Sometimes, people at work, sometimes people got other things to do, but rather you catch it live, rather you catch this show, behind the scenes, your after show boy, after show girl, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate anybody that catches 5 minutes of this show, 10 minutes, or watch the whole thing. Because y'all don't have to be listening to me. Lord knows you don't, but I appreciate it. I know it can be upsetting, but the speed of the NFL is lightning quick at the defensive end position. Some players need to be completely healed. Yeah, Slim. I mean, look, they're in that 3-point stance. They're putting a lot of pressure on that calf, on that Achilles, coming off, like trying to be explosive. I don't like, man, if you ever got down like in a 3-point stance properly, your hands on the ground, like you putting a lot of pressure to come off that line as soon as that quarterback says height. That's a lot of explosiveness, man. That's a lot. Like, and then you have to also take into account this is a 270, 280 pound man, like doing that 50, 60 times a game. Like that's insane, man. Like that's insane. So, I mean, sometimes those injuries occur, man. And, if in certain positions, that's the reason why, like, okay, a calf injury in some cases may not affect a certain position the way that it would a defensive lineman. Or, if let's just say, for example, if, your throwing shoulder or something like that, if you're a quarterback, You can't play if your throwing shoulder is a little bit wonky, right? But if you're a linebacker or something like that, like you might put a little harness on, go back out there and play, right? Because now he ain't throwing the football. So, I mean, these injuries that happen, like such and such played through this. Well, he might play a position where he doesn't have to compensate. You know what I'm saying? He has to have to compensate for a loss of a certain injury, right? But when it comes to certain positions, like you need your Achilles, you need your calf, you need your knees, you need those things. So gotta be careful. TJ, you think Tyreek Hill career is over? You know what? Yes, I do. I do feel like his career is over. And here's why. Not the fact that I don't feel like Tyreek Hill can actually come back from this situation. Tyreek Hill falls into that category that a lot of people often say they'll tolerate you until you're no longer, a benefit to them. There we go. As long as Tyreek Hill was flying down the field with blazing speed, they will tolerate him. They will tolerate the antics. They will tolerate some of the issues that are off the field. Why? Because his talent is beneficial to the success of the football team. But, you're dealing with an injury where you tear your ACL, LCL, ligaments, had to get immediate surgery, and had to stay at the hospital. It's going to take you a while in order for you to get back on the field. I want to say Tank Dell dealt with an injury. I haven't seen him since, right? This is a young guy. So Tyreek Hill is like 32. It's going to be like 33. So no, I don't. If you combine the fact that Tyreek Hill has had so many issues off the field, the antics that he has had with the Miami Dolphins, I don't think that people are going to be willing to, try to gamble on Tyreek Hill, a 30-year-old Tyreek Hill, who they feel like is probably more trouble than what he's worth. But at least he can go out there and run and take the top off the defense. So no, I don't. I do not. I think that this will be the NFL's way of ridding themselves of the Tyreek Hill experience. See, you can't really rid him, can't rid yourself of the experience because he's so talented, right? But now it's like, okay, is he going to be the same player? Some teams aren't even going to try. They're not even going to try to invest in that because they feel like it's not worth the headache. So he'll probably get opportunities, maybe, but, teams probably going to be looking at him like he damaged goods. So I don't think that he's going to play in the NFL. I don't. And if he does, he'll probably go back to the Dolphins where, he'll finish up a contract or something. But I think with his injury, it's going to take some time, man. It's going to take some time. But, it depends on what type of determination he has to get back on the field. But I don't think that teams are going to be lining up trying to get him an opportunity to play again. Say what you want about the secondary. Quincy Riley and safety Ernest Sinker are dogs. If we see more Danny Strutzman and he pans out as well, then we have some actual juice from the draft. Well, I like what I'm seeing from the draft from guys like Calvin Banks, Ernest Sinker, Quincy Riley. And look, man, I understand that Ernest Sinker had an interception, 3 pass deflections last week. But just because he had a game like that don't mean that his struggles are over. But you want to see these guys trending in the right direction. I'm pretty sure these guys are going to get beat, be out of position, I understand that, right? But you want to see these guys battling and getting better and showing flashes. And I think you're seeing it from both guys. Quincy Riley had a forced fumble against Seattle, and Ernest Sinker had the first interception of the season for the defense. So as long as you're trending in the right direction, I don't want to put too much pressure on these guys like, oh, man, we solved our safety problem. We solved our cornerback problem. That remains to be seen. But taking advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves, these guys are doing. And for that, I appreciate them. Keep up the good work. Keep stacking them every day. Don't read your press clippings. And hopefully you can be the player that a lot of Saints fans feel you can be by what they saw so far from you. TJ, you think already read that, says, TJ, do you think we need to win or just lose out to get a good first-round offensive line. I like how you set that up. Look, I don't want to see an offensive lineman in the first round anymore. You know, as good as Calvin Banks is, he definitely is worth it. I don't think people talk about Calvin Banks enough. I understand we only talk about offensive linemen when they out here struggling, looking like Cesar Ruiz has throughout his career. But Calvin Banks was worth that pick in a draft. Like, I understand that people wanted, like, you know, quarterback and want to do that early. But Calvin Banks, the pick that the Saints had him at 9 was justified, right? I mean, you know, it was just justified. He's a solid guy, and he's only going to get better. Just think about how good he is now. He isn't even like evolved into his grown man body just yet. So imagine how good he's going to be as long as he stays healthy. I mean, he can be that anchor at left tackle. He has that mind frame. I mean, we seen he a dog out there. Like that time when, I don't know if it was the 49ers or not, I can't remember. But, you know, somebody gave Spencer Rattler a little something extra after the whistle. Who was the first person there? It was Calvin Banks. So, you know, I don't want to like knock him too much, but I just think that you have to go quarterback. Like, you got to go quarterback. Like, to me, I like Spencer Rattler a lot, but I don't think Spencer Rattler is the future of this franchise, and neither do I feel Tyler Shuck is. Like, seriously, I think that you need to see what you have in Shuck, but I do think that the New Orleans Saints need to try to get themselves a franchise quarterback. You got to be able to get the best quarterback available. The Saints have not been in this type of position since 2006 when they drafted Reggie Bush with the second pick overall. Like, you know, how much of an impact Reggie Bush was. Was Reggie Bush like the best running back we ever seen? No, but he provided a spark. He gave the city hope. And right now, that's what the city needs. It needs hope. It needs somebody that they can look at and be like, man, the future is bright. We're going to be all right. Now, Reggie Bush was accompanied by a guy with a chip on his shoulder that was 6 foot tall and 209 pounds in Drew Brees. But what Reggie Bush meant to the city was, you know, a resurgence, excitement, explosiveness. And that's what the New Orleans Saints need. Like, I don't know what the next quarterback, if they were to draft one. And, you know, right now, if I'm not mistaken, the Saints got the number 1 pick in the draft. Or maybe the Jets do. Depends on what draft board you're looking at. But I look at Tankathon, and the Saints are number 1. Like, this gives you opportunity to draft anybody you want, right? And if you have 2 quarterbacks that leave a lot to be desired, no disrespect, but if you can get Lenore Sellers that can provide something with his leg and arm, if you can get yourself a Fernando Mendoza, the way he's playing, right? A 6'5", 220-pound accurate quarterback. Or, you know, guys like, you know, Drew Aller or Dante Moore. Like, get a quarterback up in here that can put the team on his back, that you know that eventually he'll probably start off, you know, looking like a rookie, but eventually he will evolve into being something special. The city needs hope right now. They need a win, number 1, but they need some hope. They need hope for the future. That is why when you look around this team, that's what people are searching for. If you are a logical Saints fan, you understand that this season is not ideal. It's not happening. Like, if the Saints go on a run, I mean, they're going to be writing about that for years to come. I don't see that happening. But people are looking for hope. That's why they putting so much emphasis on Ernest Sinker's performance. That's why they putting so much emphasis on Quincy Riley being out there, seeing what Danny Stutchman can do. This is why. But it all starts at the quarterback position. People want to look in the eyes of a quarterback and be like, man, we going to win this week. And it's been a minute since the New Orleans Saints have looked into the eyes of the quarterback that is taking the field to throw the football for the Saints, looked into his eyes and said, we going to win this week. When you looked into the eyes of Drew Brees, he was doing that little stretch thing with his legs and stuff and on the sidelines. And then he does that little, you know, that little back to pass, and he go through all his reads. Like, you know, he was dialed in. You know, more than likely you was going to get a win. And when the Saints didn't win, you was pissed off. Why? Because they should have won the game more than likely. Saints fans want hope. So whoever provides that hope, bring them to New Orleans. Plain and simple. No disrespect to any of those quarterbacks, but I'm looking in the eyes. I see guys that's trying hard. I see Spencer Rattler is giving everything that he has, every ounce of talent that he has, he is given to this team. And I respect the hell out of him for that. But at the end of the day, sometimes like God just blesses people with certain abilities. And no matter how much you try, that's where you at. You might be fine-tuned, you might be polished, you might be able to see certain things, but that's your ceiling. That's your ceiling. You need somebody out there that's going to elevate their game. You need somebody out there that's going to be able to take the game over, put the team on his back, and provide hope to the city. Whoever that may be, ladies and gentlemen, that's who the Saints need to get. I don't care if it's offensively, defensively, but it should be a quarterback. I like Penny at guard. That's what he should have been playing from day one. I agree. But, sometimes it takes a while for you to get to your destination. You ever been driving and you're like, man, I can't wait to get home. And then all of a sudden, like you see those big old barriers up, road closed. Like, God, dog it. Now I got to take the scenic, I got to take a scenic route. I got to, I got to go all the way around here, go back here, go around here in order for me to get to my house. It's frustrating, right? But at the end of the day, you get to your destination. There's a lot of road closures leading to Trevor Penny being a left guard. But you're here right now. And guess what? Nobody apologizes that they made it home, right? Everybody wants to make it home. When you leave home and you go to work, you want to get home in the evening, right? Everybody wants to do it. So it doesn't matter that, he played all these different positions. If he can find stability at a position where he can continue his career, be able to provide for his family, and maybe get himself an extra contract, then I'm pretty sure he's not going to make any apologies about that, and neither should the Saints. If hindsight was 2020, then all of a sudden, like you probably wouldn't have drafted him, but trying to find a place for Trevor Penny is key, and him being a guard seems like that's a good spot for him because he likes to maul people, and he loves being able to block in a running game, which most offensive linemen do. Like I learned that from Zach Streif. Like shouts out to Zach. He was on the show a couple of years ago, and he said, he's like, man, I don't want to be sitting back there pass protecting. Like, man, I want to run block. And if you ask most offensive linemen, they're going to tell you, like, I want to run block. So, Trevor Penny, like, he want to maul people. So credit to him, man. Credit to him for finding stability. And he played pretty well, man. Outside of that first series where he got beat, after that, like, he settled in and dialed in. So credit to him. Nothing will change for the Saints until Gayle sells the team and Mickey is fired. Linda, look, I don't think Gayle Benson selling the team, but I definitely agree that Mickey Loomis is the detriment of the New Orleans Saints. I feel like the reason why we're in this situation right now is because of Mickey Loomis. People want to try to defend Mickey Loomis and say Mickey Loomis isn't the quarterback. Mickey Loomis doesn't tackle. Mickey Loomis doesn't play in coverage. But Mickey Loomis is responsible for the condition that the New Orleans Saints are in. He's responsible for the New Orleans Saints inability to be able to be competitive in a free agent market, having to get guys on cheap deals, maybe players that are over the hill or past their prime, or guys that you have to take a flyer on and hope that they pan out. Because Mickey Loomis, for years, could not come to grips with the fact that the New Orleans Saints needed to embrace the rebuild. They kept on trying to keep that window open. Yeah, man, look, where are my people at? Y'all ever had that window? And it used to put like a piece of like wood in the window because if you didn't, it was going to shut. Like that's what Mickey Loomis was doing. Mickey Loomis put the plywood in the window, right? You putting a fan in the window. You got to keep this thing propped open. That's what he was doing. Like you up in here trying to prop open a window with plywood, right? But it's pretty obvious you just need to fix the doggone window. How about taking the time to try to put some new brackets on the window so when you raise it up, it stays open, right? There was no brackets. You up in here trying to fix a window with plywood, okay? And that's what he's been doing. Like, you got to embrace and understand where you are. Like, the longer you prolong the process, the more difficult it will be. So I just think, look, I don't have a problem with you being confident in yourself. I don't have a problem with you trying to do what is best, and for the team to try to win a football game. He did that. I give him credit for that. But you also have to be realistic about your situation, right? You can't be out here with Ruth Chris Steakhouse dreams and only have Golden Corral money. You can't. Once again, you cannot have Ruth Chris Steakhouse dreams with Golden Corral money. It's best for you to try to get yourself some Ruth Chris money by making the right decisions instead of you sitting up in here pretending and acting a part. Because once again, people do not like their intelligence questioned. And I think in a lot of cases, Mickey Loomis tried to question the intelligence of the Who Dat Nation. And he tried to make it seem like we didn't see what was going on. We can see what's going on. I mean, it took a lot of people to see who he really was with the absence of Breeze and Peyton. But everybody can see now, like this dude is has been the downfall of the Saints. It's just the truth. For him not to embrace the change, for him being too afraid to embrace the future, like they came to this conclusion anyway. Like that's what some people fail to understand. You tried to prolong the inevitable. You tried to not turn a page. You tried to keep the window open. You tried to bring in and keep Sean Payton layovers because you were trying to maintain the same culture. And I understand why, because the New Orleans Saints came into existence in 1967, and that 15, 16-year span was the most prosperous the team has ever been. But the reality is, David Ruffin was David Ruffin. Dennis Edwards was Dennis Edwards, right? Dennis Edwards can't do what David Ruffin can do. I mean, they both sound good, but at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? David Ruffin was the one that was selling all the records. You know, like, you get what I'm saying? Like Dennis Edwards, he had a Grammy and stuff like that. You know, he may don't look any further. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the Temptations, we thinking about David freaking Ruffin, right? My whole point is saying that you can try to reinvent the wheel, right? You can try to make this thing seem as if it's not going off the rails. But eventually, people are going to realize that what they're listening to, what they're seeing, and what they're watching is not going to be in lock and step at what they actually saw that was successful. That is what he needs to understand. That's what he should have understood. And that's the reason why the New Orleans Saints should have turned the page. Nobody likes to change after years of comfortability. That's the reason why, like, we'll say, I don't like this job, man. Man, this job getting on my nerves. Well, let me try to, man, go find another job. Well, you know, I've been here this long. You know, it's hard for you, like, when you know how, you know, where the good spots at to eat lunch. You know what time you can get all work. You know who's going to show up. You know how to do your job effectively, right? It's hard for you to sit up here and go into a different environment after years of stability, years of continuity. It is hard because you don't know what's on the other side, right? I could get this job and I probably, like this job, but there's a chance where I'm not going to be as good at that job as the job I came from. Sometimes change can be scary, but change can be necessary. And the New Orleans Saints had to find that out. They found out, in my opinion, way too late. And that's the reason why, folks, for the last 4 weeks, we've been miserable. Because you have one guy who felt that the Saints were much better or in a better position than any of us probably, would imagine. Like, it's just what it is. That's why they're in this position. Because he felt that this team was what still had a chance to be one of the best teams in the league. But I just feel like that's just absolutely insane. It's insane. Unless you got a Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck type situation. If the Saints had a Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck type situation, I understand, right? If Drew Brees retired and let's just say they drafted Jordan Love, which I felt like they should have. I mean, as y'all know the whole spiel. If you was there at the 2020 draft, if they would have got Jordan Love, more than likely they wouldn't be in this situation. But if ifs was a fifth, we all would be drunk. So, but yeah, Mickey Loomis is the reason why you're in this situation. Mickey Loomis is wild, bro. Trade deadline is November the 4th. Should we trade Chris Olave and get something back for him? Theoretically, yes, but the Saints aren't going to do it. They're not trading Chris Olave. Sorry for my language, but that man, you doing the organization 30. Yeah, he definitely turned the Saints into a disgrace. You know, like, and look, I'm not talking about the players. The players are not disgraceful. They're giving everything that they have. It's not their fault that they're young and inexperienced. And some of the players are just, they up there in age. They're older. They're not the players that they once were. They're still doing everything that they can and still making plays, because when you're a great player, you can still be older, but you're still better than the rest. Like, so if you're elite when you're young, you still going to be above average or really good when you're older. Like, look at Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell, in his 18th season, and still was out there making plays on Thursday night and against the Saints. So when you're good, you're good. You might have lost a step, but you're still good enough to be able to make plays and be where you need to be. I'm not drafting a quarterback in the first round. Get a prototype wide receiver or get a splash player on defense in the first round. Yeah, I'm thinking ahead of the season for retooling in 2026. Ronald, I mean, look, I want to say this, right? I feel the same way as last year. I'm going to say that to people that kind of just joined the podcast this season, probably, found me this season. I said, any way the Saints want to approach the draft would probably be ideal, because they still need so many different things around this team. I can understand everything, for the exception of you drafting a kicker in the first round, which I don't feel like they would. If you draft a quarterback, fine. But here's the thing. See what you have in Rattler, which you have been doing. See what you have in Shuck if the season continues to go the way that it has. See what these guys have. If you are picking in a top 3, if you're picks 1, 2, or 3, and let's just say, for example, you see Rattler, he's pretty serviceable, probably be able to start in spurts, maybe develop into something, maybe be a solid starter if he can work out some kinks. If Tyler Shuck, okay, he's solid, probably work out some kinks. You will never, or at least you need to approach it this way. I want people to understand this. You should approach the draft when you're picking in the top 3. You should approach it as if this is something that will probably never, ever happen again, regardless to how we may feel about the Saints. You should approach it like, I may never get an opportunity to get a player of this caliber ever again. That's how you need to approach it. If it's a defensive lineman like Baines Jr. out of Miami, rather it's a quarterback, rather it's a freakish wide receiver, whoever it may be. I'm not really in a business of drafting a wide receiver in the first round, first pick overall. Like, I'm just not, because I just feel like there's a lot of talented wide receivers out there. So if you don't get, I guess people can say, well, Jeremiah Smith or something. That's probably the only wide receiver I can just look at and be like, okay, he's a number 1 guy. But other than that, nah. Like, if you can't get that wide receiver because he got picked with the 5th pick and you're the number 1 pick, if you're picking number 1, then that means you got picked 33. So you still gonna get a top 40 player. You may not get the number 1 wide receiver, but you'll probably get the number 2 or the number 3. So, and it's still going to be somebody with like really good upside. So unless it's like Jeremiah Smith, no, I'm not drafting a quarterback. I mean, a wide receiver with the first pick. Ain't no way. That's the only wide receiver. Him, Julio, Calvin Johnson. Those are the only wide receivers that came down the pipe that I was like, okay, I understand. Like Randy Moss, like, he just kind of he was good, but I don't think a lot of people realize how great he was. But Megatron, beast. Julio, beast. Jeremiah Smith, beast. Obviously, no brainers. Not, oh, what a pleasant surprise. Look at Randy Moss, 40-inch vertical leap, jumping over people's head, 3 touchdowns, 3 receptions. Like, you better like Motivated said, that like those guys are freaks, right? Freak athletes, they deserve that. Because the chances of you being able to find a guy like that, they come around like every 2 decades. Like, Julio was like, 2011 or something like that, was he? If I'm not mistaken. Was Julio like in 2011? It was something like that. Julio, Calvin Johnson, like those guys like come around like every decade or two. Larry Fitz, I think Larry Fitz was like 04, 03. Y'all get what I'm saying? Like these guys like that fit that role. They don't come around often. So if you have a chance to get them, you better grab them quick. Trade down and go defensive heavy. Like, I think the Saints need to pick. Like, unless like somebody like comes to them with a king's ransom. Like, okay, man, we're gonna give you a first this year. We're gonna give you a first next year. Like something like that. Like it gotta be like something like a king's ransom. Like, and it has to be a team that's like still picking in the top 5. Like, we letting you move up to number 1. You can have our number 5 pick. Cool. And then you'll have a opportunity of having 2 firsts in 2027. It has to be something like that. But if it's not, then you draft the best player available. Yeah, homeboy from Ohio State is fired. Yeah, Jeremiah Smith, but I mean, he's a sophomore. He's not coming out. The Saints are favored the first time this year. Rattler has to win Sunday or next Sunday because the clock is ticking. I think he have to win this Sunday. Because if he doesn't win this Sunday, like I know that some people don't want to, talk about this or even address this, but the Saints got another home game against the Patriots before they go on the road and the schedule gets a little bit more difficult. So if Spencer Rattler can't beat the Giants, this probably can be the game where you set up Tyler Shuck to play at home versus a New England Patriots team. Although they beat the brakes off the Carolina Panthers, they're not very good. So you got to think about that. So I don't know, man. This might be a game where this might be Spencer Rattler's final opportunity before the Saints like seriously start considering Tyler Shuck being a starting quarterback. Because no disrespect to the Giants, but I guess if you're looking at like, if you can't beat the Giants, like I can understand Buffalo, I can understand San Francisco, I can understand Arizona, I can understand Seattle. But the Giants aren't a good football team. I know they beat the Chargers last week, but at the end of the day, they're not a good football team. And any Giants fan will tell you that. This is a winnable football game. The chances of Spencer Rattler winning a football game will never be as high this season versus maybe if they play the Jets than it is right now. If you can't beat the Giants, I mean this respectfully now. I don't want to be disrespecting no Giants fans. I'm just telling you what the vibe is. If you can't beat the New York Giants, who have a coach who is on the hot seat, who has a general manager on the hot seat, and they have some very Like they got some players that are susceptible of getting beat, miss tackles, and make mistakes constantly. You will never get another opportunity like this season. Like I said, unless you play the Jets. So you got to consider that. You got to consider that. You cannot go out there throwing throws behind players. You gotta put it on them. You gotta play at a high level. And you definitely gotta make sure, like by hook or crook, you gotta make sure you come out of there with a victory. I don't care if the score is 21-20. I don't care if it's 19-18. Nobody cares. Nobody is gonna care what the score is. As long as the New Orleans Saints have more points than the opponent, nobody cares. I'm telling you. You gotta, like, fair or unfair. If you can't beat a lowly Giants team that is trying to figure it out, who can you beat? Who can you beat? We have to tape on the quarterbacks, and this is going to be closer than it should. Yeah, I think that it's going to be a close game because I said this on Dash's podcast earlier. He covers the Giants. I said that both teams are going to be looking at this game the same way that we're looking at, oh, you got to beat the Giants. Giants is doing the same thing. Man, if you can't beat the Saints, Brian Daboll, Joe Shane. Joe Shane is the general manager of the Giants. Brian Daboll, the head coach of the Giants. This is a big year for them. If you are losing to the Saints, I'm pretty sure Giants fans are going to be like, well, if you can't beat the Saints, who can you beat? And vice versa. So they got a chip on their shoulder just as big as the Saints and Spencer Rattler. So it is not going to be an easy game. I don't want anybody like, oh, man, we playing the Giants. Like, they want to win too. There's a lot on the line for their organization too. There's a lot on the line for coaches, players. I mean, if you start talking about the storylines of the Giants without saying the team name, you'll think you're talking about the Saints. Some of the same problems that are plaguing the New York Giants are plaguing the Saints. The same way that our organization is looking at beating a lowly team and trying to find yourself and trying to solidify your position is the same way the Giants are looking at it. Same story, different cover page. This team is really good. It just haven't got rolling yet. When it does, it's going to be scary. King, I respect that optimism, but I don't think they're good. I think that you got some, if anything, you want to walk away from this season feeling like your young players are trending in the right direction. Now, I think that with the New Orleans Saints, it's probably going to take a couple off seasons for them to be able to be competitive. I think another off season with a better cap situation and maybe a solid draft, I think you'll be able to get yourself in contention to win a division again. See, it got to be baby steps, man. Like, I know people don't want to hear that, but that's what it got to be. You want to make sure that you are getting better and better and better as the weeks go by. The continuity continues to grow. Young players grow up before your eyes, and they can transition that to the next season. So you can bring in some more players along with some draft picks and some impactful players. Maybe find another guy that can be an impactful player like Demario Davis was for you. Somebody like that, right? You know, like from a football level, what Darren Sharper was for you. That's what you want. Combined with some young players that can get it done. Did you hear more media availability about G-men defensive ends bringing pressure to the quarterback lately? Yeah, I mean, I heard about that. That's one of the reasons why I feel like, Ronald, the key to victory for the New Orleans Saints has got to be Spencer Rattler getting that ball out of his hands quickly. Don't give him time to get to the quarterback. Good walked out the building 5 years ago. I agree with that. I agree with that. Like a lot of mistakes, a lot of mishaps. They got the Saints in this situation, but that doesn't mean like they can't get themselves back into it. Like right now, they just trying to figure it out. That don't mean that they can't like get themselves back to where they need to be. You know, all teams kind of just go through, you know, bad, rough patches, unless you like the Baltimore Ravens or something. They just always seem to find stability. And even with them right now, you know, they struggling. So it's like, you know, I mean, sometimes like teams just go through rough patches. You know, the Saints had stability for almost 2 decades, but now you know you don't have a quarterback anymore. Don't have a head coach that won a lot of football games. You got a young head coach, inexperienced quarterbacks. Look, you got to be able to figure out what you got to be able to turn this thing around. You right, it looks bad right now, but I see potential. There are just a few more pieces and we'll be all right. And the retirement of Mickey Loomis. Look, I agree. Look, I'm the Saints are definitely not the worst team in the league. I know they haven't won a game, but they're not the worst team in the league. But at the same time, you know, like you have players that need to learn how to become professionals and how to win football games and close and not get in their own way. That kind of stuff, it takes time and it takes the right coach to be able to coach some of these bad these bad things out of these players, you know, like the things that get you beat, the things that set you back, the things that stunt like drives from being progressive. You know, like it takes time. Rather be throwing hospital balls to Kamara. He definitely has to work on his accuracy, man. You know, I tell people this, you know, like the reason I give Spencer Rattler grace and I'll just sit up here and just like, oh man, he just sucked. It's because the things that affect him and prohibit him from like reaching his full potential are fixable. It's just a matter of is he willing to put in the work? But I think the biggest issue is he has these problems. It's probably going to take an off season for him to fix it in order for him to become a little bit more consistent. And ain't nobody got no time for that, especially if you're not winning. If Spencer Rattler was like overthrowing receivers and throwing passes behind him and the Saints were winning, it's like people would be like, he missed the throw, but man, at least we won the game. You're losing and he's inaccurate. It just exacerbates the situation. It just does. So, you know, I just think that the things that are, you know, about him are fixable. I don't buy into the narrative that, oh, if a quarterback is inaccurate in college, that means that he can't be accurate in the pros. Like, to me, it's like one of those cliches. A running back is 30, so he washed. A quarterback is 35 plus, he can't play the quarterback position no more. Or better yet, here's the new one. Oh, he's 40, but Drew Brees and Tom Brady played until they 40, and they played well. Like some narratives, you know, people just kind of fall for it. It just becomes like a standard or something. Like, but you can fix your accuracy. Like I had a show a couple of episodes ago where I talked about some of the quarterbacks that struggle with their accuracy early in their career, and they were able to kind of fine tune that thing and be able to, you know, be north of 65%. So if he's willing to put in the work, like I can see him doing that, you know, like, but it takes time and it takes it takes a want to mind frame in order to do it. Not many be able to do it because sometimes they got to break down their mechanics. Like if you look at Josh Allen, the way he throws the football now, it's completely different than when he came into the league. And it's been well documented. Like his throwing coach, I think they did a Hard Knocks episode and they kind of highlighted Josh Allen throwing the football and how different it is and some of the mechanics. Like if you're willing to put in the work, it's possible. The quarterback of the future, probably not on the roster. I'm starting to believe that. I'm sick and tired of Kellen Moore smiling and laughing because right now this is not funny. Well, you don't want him to be walking around. You don't want him to be walking around stoic, right? And then, creating this negative vibe around the team. Look, right now, what you need is the energy to be high. What you need is for guys to still have confidence. And if you start to bring that type of mood to the facility, Rob, it might affect the team. Right now, these guys like, man, let's just keep on pressing forward. Let's just keep on trying. Like, we did some good things, man. We eliminated the mistakes. Let's just stop getting in our own way. Like, he still has the locker room, and that's what you want. Like, you don't want this man to be walking around stoic, on some Bill Belichick in New England type tip. Like, you want him to be out there, like, with the positive vibes. We getting close, fellas. Like, we building something here. Believe in the process. Now, you don't want him to be walking around there like, man, I got to be serious about this. Like, he is serious. But that also is his personality. And we know, like, you want to stay true to yourself. If you're a smiley, glass half full type guy, like, you might want to maintain that. Because when you start switching up on players, man, they read that. Think about this, man. Football players, their job is for them to read and dissect things. Rather you're on the offense, you're trying to dissect the defense to make sure, like, what type of coverage they're in, or defensive player, what type of offensive, game plan they coming with. What type of play design is this? Guys get paid to dissect and read vibes, read formations. So it don't just stop on the field. So you better stay true to yourself. Kellen Moore called a good game last week. I agree. Completion percentage isn't always the best indicator of accuracy. You can throw a lot of RPO and screens to inflate that stat. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's true, motivated. That's a good point. That's a good point. A lot of quarterbacks do that, but at the same time, I'm not so much referring to those individuals, right? I'm referring to the ones that, like Josh Allen, that kind of push the ball down the field. Not so much this season. Believe it or not, he hasn't really pushed the ball down the field this season. What I'm saying is, like, when it comes to the quarterback position, when you're talking about improving and fixing your accuracy, you have quarterbacks like, like Troy Aikman in the past, Steve Young in the past. They will push the ball down the field. Like, I want to say Steve Young was like in the 50s when he first started out with Tampa. Where's that at? Like, man, that was your quarterback back in the day before San Francisco found him. Like, he wasn't the most accurate quarterback coming out of Brigham Young, and he fixed that. Now, I'm giving you like different type of quarterbacks. Like, guys would be like, well, that's Steve Young. He's a legend. But I'll give you Geno Smith too. Geno Smith was not accurate coming out of West Virginia. Was not. But he was able to fix his mechanics and it became an accurate quarterback. I want to say Geno is like around 67, 68, and we know he pushed the ball down the field. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, motivated. Like, there are cases where the stats can become inflated and with completion percentage due to the fact that you running more of an RPO game with short intermediate routes. But I'm referring to the ones that probably would throw passes in a flat, 15 yards plus. And, they still can, drop it in a bucket, but it takes time, right? It takes time. Like, I mean, we all know that. I mean, completion percentage, like I often said this, motivated. I said all stats aren't created equal. I used the example of, okay, if I'm shooting 20-foot jumpers and I go 9 of 10, you stand under the rim and you go 9 for 10. Like, we're both at 90%, but you would have to say my degree of difficulty was better than yours. So those stats aren't created equal. So I get what you're saying. That makes perfect sense. But I'm referring more to the ones that fix their mechanics and they were just well polished and just well, like, really good overall. Not so much like, okay, man, you dinging and dunking. Okay, you right in front of me? Okay, let me check it down. Become a captain check down around this thing. But, yeah, I mean, look, there are quarterbacks that have improved their accuracy. Trizzy, thank you very much for the $4.99. Says, to be honest, I think Lincoln Riley giving up on Rattler, Oklahoma ruined his development and confidence. And by the way, thanks, TJ, you helped me with the 3-hour drive. Well, Trizzy, look, I'm here to help, right? And, I plan on continuing to do that for those that may be on the road. Shouts out to my truck drivers out there. You blow your horn one time for your boy. Yeah, man. I mean, it's great to hear stories like that. I mean, I get all these different messages from like truck drivers and stuff saying, man, TJ, I had a long ride. I'll put you on, and and all of a sudden, like I'm at my destination. Like, I appreciate that, man. And I'm just glad I ain't boring you to death to a point where you're swerving on the road. So I appreciate you. Let's see. 504 says, Kendre, a dog, feed him. And we have a left tackle and right tackle for the next 10 years. It's something to be excited about on the team. Yeah, I mean, look, if you always just look at some of the negative aspects of what's going on, like, you'll never be satisfied. And, I just don't want Saints fans to fall into that trap of everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Like, there are some positive things that are happening around this football team, despite the 0-4 record. And that's what all you can ask for right now. Like we'll get to a point where, we really having these deep conversations like, man, is this the right person at this position? Is this the right person for the job? Like, we'll get back to that. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, you kind of treating this thing like how I treat my son's flag football team. Like, okay, man, they 6 and 7 years old. Like, they wide open. They going to drop a pass. Like, come on, man. Like, okay, good, man. Good job, buddy. You'll get it next time. Like, as crazy as that sounds, that's just what it is. That's how we approaching this thing. Like, you ain't about to sit up here and be like, oh, man, come on. Like, when these guys are going to have to go through some growing pains in order for them to find it. Now, there are some things that are inexcusable. Dropping wide open passes. You're a professional, man. Come on. You're not 6 or 7 years old. You got to catch the pass, especially if you're wide open. If there's only two things guarding you, space and opportunity, you got to catch the ball, man. You got to catch the ball. We should be okay Sunday. The Giants haven't really stopped the run. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a good time motivated for you to build on the momentum. Now, to me, a little bit of false momentum, because we know Buffalo is like one of the worst run defenses in football. But whatever, like, it don't matter. Like, take it any way that you can. Kind of like how Falcon fans are when it comes to the Commanders. Like, they act like they beat Jaden Daniels and Scary Terry. Like, come on, man, calm down. Y'all won. Golf clap. All right, but let's just see if we can actually build on what we did. And this is a great opportunity for them to do that, motivated. Taysom Hill is still labeled as a quarterback, so that's an upgrade to a sense. Tight end should be focal point for Rattlers progress now that it has been upgraded. Yeah, but trust and believe, when Taysom Hill come back, he's going to be throwing that football. Taysom Hill, like, don't be surprised, ladies and gentlemen. When Taysom Hill comes back, you don't see Spencer Rattler in the red zone. Do not be surprised. Do not be surprised. Do not be surprised that the New Orleans Saints utilize Taysom Hill mostly as a quarterback in the red zone. Do not be surprised. Steve Young got better when he left. Yeah, he got better when he left, but he was able to work on some things, and it didn't help. I mean, it did help him that he sat behind, in my opinion, the greatest quarterback of all time. No disrespect to Tom Brady or Drew Brees, but Joe Montana was the man. He was the man. So, that kind of helped him as well. It wasn't like how it was, I mean, where my OGs at? Y'all know how it used to be back in the day. I'm not trying to lose none of the younger viewers here, but once upon a time back in the day, a quarterback would get drafted. You probably was their quarterback for 3-4 years. They'll just be sitting on the bench, and, like, that helped Steve Young a lot. Now, they had to let go of Joe Montana because, it was, of course, that, as Steve Young started to develop, he started to get better, and Joe Montana started to get up there in age, and, they didn't like each other. But that comes with the territory, right? You bring in a young quarterback nipping at your heels. I think it was positive because last year we knew teams' weakness and still couldn't capitalize on it. Yep. And credit to Kellen Moore. He understood that the Buffalo Bills were the worst run defense in football. Now, some of that could be inflated now. That could be inflated because let me go ahead and take a look at the Buffalo Bills schedule. All right, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it. All right, so the Buffalo Bills, they played the Baltimore Ravens, who has Derrick Henry. They played against the Jets, who have Breece Hall. They played against the Dolphins, who have Devon Achane and Ollie Gordon. And you play against the Saints, who have Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller. So it's not like you playing against scrub running backs. Like, it's not like you playing against scrub you and they just running up. Like Derrick Henry, minus the fumbles, is, best running back in the game. Breece Hall, very young, promising running back. Alvin been doing it for a minute, right? Devon Achane, very underrated running back. I don't think a lot of people really too much focus on him, but he a beast. So, that's kind of, I don't want to call it murderous road, but that's not easy. That's not an easy cast of characters going out there to be able to scheme against. Sim taking over Ruiz's spot. Yeah. I mean, it's a great opportunity for Simpkins too. Because Ruiz hasn't played solid enough that if Simpkins finds continuity on the offensive line and he stabilizes it, that the New Orleans Saints be like, you know what, Caesar, like, we appreciate it, man, but the young kid is playing well right now, so we're going to roll with him. I'm going to take a few more, then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here, folks. But thank y'all for being here. I do want to mention the fine folks at MyBookie, the official sponsor of the State of the Saints podcast throughout the 2025 season. The Saints are a 1.5-point favorite as of right now going into week 5 versus the Giants. If you feel like the New Orleans Saints are going to cover, if you feel like the Giants are probably going to cover, all you have to do is download the MyBookie app and you can place your bets today. There's also a special promotion where if you bet up to $500, you can get a buy-in option, which means if you bet $500 and you lose it, you get that buy-in option, you'll get your $500 back. All right. So make sure that you use the promo code Saints. That's promo code Saints. The Philly special still have me in my feelings. We should have won that game. Every time somebody say the Philly special, just makes me think about my boy Holden Mayo. He was like, that wasn't the Philly special, that was the Gentili special. But hey, if it would have worked, that would have been a clever name though, the Gentili special. But yeah, that definitely was not a Philly special. Fact, the ball never touched the ground. He caught it on his knees. I lost it a little, then regained it before it touched the ground. Of course, that was going to be overturned because it was the Saints. Yeah, I mean, I was looking at an interview with Sauce Gardner, and he was saying, like, I feel like, when you're a bad football team and things aren't going your way, that's when, like, the referees really be calling little ticky-tack calls on you. He was like, because I see some of these teams that's winning, and they be doing some of the same things that we're doing, but they don't garner flags. And he's like, it feels like they if a team is down, they try to keep them down. I don't know, man. But it does seem like they always seem to do things that you don't normally see referees do consistently when the Saints play. Simpkins had the 4th highest grade as a left guard after Sunday's game. I guess you mean like right guard, because I think he played right guard when Ruiz left. Yeah, but I mean, that's a trend in the right direction. It may not mean much to a lot of people, but a young player that just gets thrust into the lineup 504, I mean, that can do wonders for a guy's confidence, to be able to go out there and be like, hey, man, I mean, Buffalo Bills, I mean, they got Joey Bosa and, Ed Oliver didn't play, but they got some talented guys on that defensive front. And you're able to kind of keep them in check. I mean, that's a feather in the hat for Simpkins, and that's something that he can build on. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Once again, I just wanted to come back and circle back. We had like a little brief episode earlier in the evening before I switched over to do Dash's podcast with the Giants. And I just wanted to come back, answer some questions, get the pulse of the Who Dat Nation. So I appreciate you all coming back with me. And shouts out to those that went over to the channel to support. I really do appreciate it. And special shout out to those that support the NFC South Roundtable. I see so many familiar names inside of the chat. It means a lot to me that you guys show up to support me as well as defend the New Orleans Saints, brand. And, it means a lot. And that show is growing. Like every single week, it seems like we're getting more and more views. It seems like the chat just be popping. I look in the chat, people just going back and forth. That's what it's all about, man. So I appreciate the love there. Special shout out to those that subscribe to the State of the NFL podcast and check out some of the content I put on Bleacher Report. Thank you all so much. I mean, I would not have these opportunities if it wasn't for fine folks like yourself believing in this young kid from the Ninth Ward, man. So I appreciate that. Well, not young, but y'all get what I'm saying. At the end of the day, man, it's all love, and I appreciate the support that you all give me. And if you're new to the channel, hopefully we won you over on this episode and you hit the subscribe button. Previous episodes you can check out here on YouTube, and you can also interact with me on X at TJAY Jones 8. Everybody have a good morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is,
when I seen him throw that ball, I was like, oh my God.
We ain't talking about that rattler pass that he threw to Cooks. But all I got to say is, who that?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
All I got to say is, who that?